join me, we will stand and recite the national anthem, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome. I will call our council meeting to order on May 20th. Has anyone have any issues with the agenda? Approval of the agenda is the first thing on the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. 5-0, it's approved. With regard to the consent agenda, I'm going to oh, thank you, Kevin. I realize you weren't telling me, but with regard to the consent agenda, I'm going to do it as I've done it the last couple of meetings, which is we'll just go through the three major portions of it. You have the minutes of the May 6th meeting. Is there anything substantive that needs to be changed in those minutes? And if not, is there a motion to approve? I'll make a motion to approve them then.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Approval of warrants in the amount of $198,382.12. Any questions of Janet or Mark about that?
There was one on there that's from Baumgars that says it's shotgun shells. Is that for the PD? Okay.
For a guy at the academy.
For the guy at the academy?
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of what I figured, but.
Anything else? Motion to approve?
Oh, hang on. Sorry, I did have one more.
Okay.
The Chingawassa buttons.
Oh, they're already on there.
Yeah.
Well, that's so we could catch the reduced price, but we won't do it until you approve it. But we didn't want to wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that saves what, $5 a button, something like that? $10 a button. Okay. Motion to approve the warrants.
I move. We approve the warrant.
Boxer moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Smith seconds. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Approval of payroll in the amount of $37,167.67. Any questions or comments with regard to payroll? I'll move that we approve the payroll. Is there a second?
I'll second.
My motion approved or seconded by Collett. Unless there's discussion, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Just again, as we move into the public comment portion of the agenda, a few rules of procedure. Remember, we are recording the meeting, so we do need people to use the microphone at the council, at the table if you wish to address the council. The recorded meeting will be shown on Vive Cable TV on Tuesdays at 7. It's also available anytime on YouTube or the city's website through YouTube. You can go to MCTV 20 live, or you can just go to the website. That's about it. Please silence your phones. Okay. Any public comment on matters included in tonight's agenda? See some people walking in. We're just at the point of asking if anyone has any public comment on matters on tonight's agenda. No public comment? Okay, we'll move on. The Chingawassa buttons, as Zach referenced, was on the for discussion last meeting. It's on for action tonight. Any questions, comments with regard to purchasing one Chingawassa button for each city employee?
This was just for full-time employees, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Is there a motion?
I move that we pay for the Chingawassa buttons for the full-time city employees.
Box's motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
We give it to Burkholder in the second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Last week, Mark was ordered to leave because we thought there was gonna be a really bad storm roll in that turned out to be really nothing. But I guess if, we could have used the rain, Mark, so I probably would have been better if you'd have stuck around, yeah. Last night was good. But I did kind of preface that you and I had talked and you were thinking, with regard to what we're talking about is the amount of money that is on a budgeted item that can be spent, without coming back before the council. And what we had talked about was setting an amount that would go, if it's a budgeted item, it would go to the city administrator, who would then just bring it back to the council for informational purposes, although that would allow the council to stop the purchase, stop the expenditure, if there was a reason to do so. And I threw out, I think, Mark, we had talked about 20, but I indicated that you had said you'd be comfortable with other amounts as well.
Yeah, I just
And-
think there's some confusion. We want to just make sure there's not confusion in the future. And just, checking some towns and knowing what other towns have done. You're at 10,000. I would say because of inflationary pressures, I just move it to 15 and stay with that. Anything over 15 budget would come to you, particularly things have gone up in prices the last few years so much.
And I'll say what I say every time this is brought up. I don't think we're at 10,000 because I don't think that what occurred, that anything in our
Yeah.
policy, that it fell within the parameters of that policy. But for the future, we'll set it at, and you say 15?
Yeah, I think that's a fair number.
What's the council think?
It's right in the middle. Works
Okay.
great.
Well, we'll be setting policy, so I think we do need to take a vote on it. I'll move that for purposes, as stated previously, for purposes of budgeted items that are going to cost $15,000 or more, the policy would be that before a supervisor, department head acts on that, they take the issue to the city administrator, who brings it to the council prior to spending any money or locking us into spending any money. So that's, I think, the motion, and I'll make that.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
So that would exclude the regular
Correct.
transactions.
Everything else would be the
that
same.
Are a regular scheduled transaction or whatever it's called, those that are already gonna
Yeah, and every town, like for chemical, for the
fees,
water
chemicals,
plant.
things that aren't a
like
decision, that are just a regular scheduled purchase.
Yeah, I think the policy's pretty,
It says that
Good.
already.
It does,
Yeah.
it's good. A little bit of confusion, I just thought we'd put a number in there,
Yep.
make it easy.
And that's for budgeted items, correct?
Yep.
yeah, if it's not a budgeted item, it's definitely coming before the council. All right, unless there's further discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. Janet, we've got a liquor license application before us. Do you want to speak about that?
It's for, Tammy Enzy over here, what was that restaurant called before?
What was the parlor?
The chef's
Then
plate.
it's the chef's
Oh, well,
plate.
it was a
That
parlor
closed.
before it was a chef's plate.
That closed, and they have somebody new coming in to open it up again, and they wanna get their license in their name. They've already applied with the state, so pretty much everything's handled, we just need you guys' approval.
Is this the, I saw this, earlier on a, application for a temporary license that MAC did for our dinner last year. And basically what the city had to do was verify that the area, the thing that the license was gonna be entered into, or allowed for, was within an area that's zoned properly, that it's in the city limits, all that. Is that what we're acknowledging tonight?
Yes.
I think, like you said, it's more of an acknowledgement, as long as it's not a CMB license. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is the state is ultimately the final issuer on a liquor license unless it's a CMB license.
Correct.
Yeah, so we're just verifying that the information put in the application is accurate with regard to those areas.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is for the address where, over there at the parlor.
It'll be called the parlor again.
Anyone wish to, move?
Maybe just a quick informational thing, so I think our city ordinances state that you can't have a liquor license within, what is it, 150 feet, or there's a set amount of feet within a church, which the parlor falls under that, but they have a conditional use permit to be there.
So,
Is it in someone's name, or is it just in the parlor? Is there?
The parlor.
The parlor, okay.
so I will move, to allow the clerk to, respond to the state and acknowledge that the information provided to us is accurate.
I'll second that.
Burkholder seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay. Counselor, department, and staff reports. Mark, do you want to kick us off?
What I have, we'll be bringing back in the next meeting, I think, once we get a little bit of clarification. We may have a short sewer relining project that goes under a road where we had some infiltration.
That's it?
That's-
Boring in your world right now.
It is.
Good thing.
Janet, how about you?
Nope, I have nothing.
Margot?
Yeah, there's, a welcome reception on Wednesday morning from 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. at the Elgin for the California State San Bernardino track team. They're coming in tomorrow and they're staying here all week. They're competing at nationals at Emporia State. And so, we just wanted to do a little reception welcome for them, and we're hoping everybody will come and greet them.
When is that again? I'm
It's
sorry.
Wednesday from 9:30 to 10:30 a.m.
What was the name of their team again?
It's the Cal State San Bernardino track team.
Are you Googling their mascot? Are you gonna come dressed as the mascot?
Right.
Anything else from you?
Other than that, I'm gonna let Aaron tell you about it, but I'm disappointed that they vandalized the park bathrooms.
Hold on a minute, take that back, please. We talked about this in the study session last week. I just wanna confirm, tonight, because this is being recorded, that you and the city, have an agreement that you're gonna remain as a full-time employee through the balance of this year. And will probably go to, part-time status in the following year. Don't know if that's January 1 or sometime thereafter. But I know people have asked about that, because I don't know if they don't think that you're safe if you're not here every day, but I think it's because they want to make sure that not Old Settlers Day, but Art in the Park's taken care of and the other things.
Yeah, we're good, not gonna leave in a lurch.
Okay.
I turned it on, Gene, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's on.
I know, I wondered. I don't know, I turned it, can you do anything more with it?
The green light's on.
Green light's on, I don't know.
So the police department doesn't really have much other than, to add a little bit to what Margot said. We're aware of what's going on. We don't have any idea who's doing it. This isn't the first time. We are in the process of getting cameras put up so tour some of the crime, and then get an idea of who's going in and what times, and maybe hopefully get a stop to what's going on to the bathroom. Today there was it the girls or the men's bathroom? So the men's bathroom, somebody had kicked in the door to one of the stalls and tried ripping it from the wall. So we have no idea who's doing it, don't know what time of day it's going on. We try to lock the parks, or the park restrooms at midnight, because that's when the park curfew is. So if you guys would want us to lock them sooner than that, just let us know. We just felt like, might as well lock them when the park curfew is. Other than that, the police department has nothing.
How often have they been vandalized now?
3 times this year.
Has it been the same thing, that they've kicked in a door, or?
Now, the first time there was graffiti on the walls, and I think the top of one of the toilet tanks was shattered. And then another time, someone had broken the soap dispenser in the men's restroom, and then this time is the door to the stall.
And that's not mentioning the food.
Not mentioning that part either. But I think 3 times total this year that we've had issues. So I don't know when the cameras are going to be in, but whenever they are, I've talked to Tim today, and the police department's going to have access to the cameras as well. So hopefully we can get some of this resolved and get it stopped.
Questions or comments?
I mean, I guess the person could look at probably locking the doors earlier, but you hate to have them locked if somebody's down there, but I wonder how late people are really down there.
It depends on the day. Usually in the summertime, I've seen people down there all the way till, I've had to run people off at midnight. So it's hard to say. There's
Right.
people down there at all hours. And that's the problem too. We don't know what time it's going on.
Yeah.
It could be going on in the middle of the day and nobody knows.
Yeah.
My assumption is that it's late at night, but it's hard to tell without having any cameras or surveillance or anything like that around there.
Right.
I like the fact that we have the restrooms in the parks. Matter of fact, I think it would be good to provide a little more guidance to get to them. I've been through towns where, as you hit city limits, there is signage that directs you to public restrooms. When you're traveling, especially going through small towns, sometimes those can be hard to find. I don't know that I never needed one at midnight, or 11:30 even, but probably get the cameras up and see if there appears to be any sort of nexus between late at night and damage, although I'm not sure we'll know for sure how we find that out, but you're putting them up, let's see what it tells us before we do anything.
And that's one of the problems too, is even in having cameras up, we're not gonna know exactly, we're just gonna know, okay, somebody went in there at this time, there wasn't any damage, and then between, so we have like a 3-hour time frame between 4 people that went in, so still won't be able to narrow it down by the anything you could possibly question.
Could we close the bathrooms just kind of earlier for the time being, as, they've been hit with vandals, just until maybe that can, I don't know. I don't think anybody needs to be in there at midnight.
Well, yeah, I think we set the policies, so we could determine what time we wanted to close it. As far as sending a message, the people that are doing it are not gonna get the message. Or it'll just make them feel good, because they feel like, clearly if you're doing that, you're just trying to get a rise out of
Right.
the man or whatever. Did you want to?
Well, no, it's a good point. It's just, it's too bad that's happening.
I agree.
I guess, when do you anticipate getting the cameras and stuff in good shape? And
I talked to Tim, he said he didn't know when exactly he'd get them. Putting them up's not gonna be an issue, it's gonna be super simple, just because they're gonna be connected to the internet.
Right.
I would assume probably within the next week, we probably have them. hopefully sooner, but I would guess probably a week from now.
I don't know. I'm guessing that, is there any pattern to the vandalism? I mean, it just happens when it happens, right?
Yeah, it just happens when it happens, and, it's not the same each time. I mean, it's vandalism, but it's different types each time. It's not the same thing. We kinda have our ideas of who's doing it, but we have no way of proving.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to answer your question, no, there's no pattern, no.
How about this, Amy, I mean, there's a couple of things I think you could do. You could go, although I have no idea what the cost would be, but if you stop in a state roadside park, everything is metal. The toilets, the urinals, everything is metal, and would be much harder. There wouldn't be a top of a ceramic toilet to break because it's all metal. I guess you could invest in something like that, but for now, why don't we just ask the PD to monitor it, and if it continues unabated, we'll have to think about what our options are.
So are you good with us still locking them when we do, or do you want us to lock them sooner?
I would prefer that, if somebody wants to talk about it earlier time, why don't we just tell Janet to put it on the agenda so the public knows we're talking about doing it at a earlier time, and I have no problem with that. I mean, midnight's pretty late.
I feel like the what they're doing, breaking things and kicking in a door, that's gotta be pretty loud. You know, so it's almost like they have to be doing it when people are not there during the day. You know, because it feels like the park's been so full lately since school's out, but.
Well, do you want to put that on for discussion and possible action at the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, got two that say yes, so Janet, if you'd have that on the agenda, please. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. You're up.
So this here is from April 10th, department head report from April 10th to today. And had 7 complaints with 60 inspections in that time period. 30 grass inspections, 16 grass violations. I've issued 6 cut orders with 4 yards mowed so far. Grass has been early this year, probably a couple weeks earlier than normal, since I've been doing this here, so it just like really grows really fast. I wrote 2 environmental code violations, one for a yard, one for yard and automobile. Right now we're doing 3 city code violations in municipal court. The abatement on 408 South Cobble Street went really, really great. All the city crews got together, and it was amazing how quickly we went through the yard and cleaned that up. And we even was able to do some salvage for the owner and apply that back to the expense of the cleanup. So, that went real well. The owner was happy because it was overwhelming for her to begin with. She had lost family and stuff. Building permits, issued 16 permits and 15 inspections, 9 building permits with 5 inspections, 3 electrical with 3 inspections, 4 plumbing with 7 inspections. The hospital project, the addition onto the hospital, they're just about complete with that. I believe by the end of this month, I will be issuing a certificate of occupancy for that. Do the final inspection on that, make sure they have all their emergency lighting and exit signs up and cover plates on all the electrical stuff. The school project, the locker rooms, concession stand, exercise pickleball court, is going real well. I have just about completed all the rough end inspections on that project, and what will be left will be final inspections as they complete the project. North Cobble, Lang Real Estate has acquired, submitted 4 building permits, and I've issued those 4 building permits for the houses on North Cobble. So So that's going to be getting started here pretty soon. I haven't heard any call for any foundation inspections on that yet, but I'm sure it's coming in the near future. East Forest, the duplex project. 2 of the duplexes are started. We've done the foundation inspections on that, plus the underground, under the concrete plumbing inspections on that. They started the framework on that there and seem to be moving pretty quick on that. S&S Med Spa is finished and issued their certificate of occupancy. That's down here on Main Street. Looked like a really nice business. Once it was all completed, it was very nice place. April 17th, 18th, and 19th, I went to a joint conference for the Kansas Association of Code Enforcement and the Heart of America Conference. And both organizations are ICC affiliates. The first day of the conference was on solar array and battery storage installations according to the National Electrical Code. And the second day while I was there, we covered existing building code and the point system that's required for construction that is kind of a neat thing. I know an architect, Ben Moore, who does that point system on renovating old downtown buildings and stuff, and so that sprinkler systems are not needed if they meet certain points and stuff like that. That's all I have. Any questions?
Just an FYI, talked to James actually today, just before the meeting, about, we had talked about wanting to look into updating our code. And because right now we're 2000, what are we?
We're on 2000 building codes.
Okay.
For plumbing and for building and residential construction also. And 2008 on the National Electrical Code. And, you know, the 2008 just barely covers any solar right now. Solar's like blowing everything away. The technology on solar systems is amazing.
And you were, and maybe this was unofficial, but my understanding is you had suggested that you thought we ought to at least get up to 2015. What was it?
I would say we go up to 2021 because there is a great expense incurred in adopting these building codes because, you know, just one set of books, and we're required by state statutes to keep 3 sets of books on hand. Just one set of books costs close to $1,000. So if we update every 3 years, then we have that expense every 3 years. But, you know, ultimately it's up to the council and the public.
What I had mentioned to James was I've already had a couple of contacts about if you guys bring the code up to speed, up to current date or close to it, it's going to really increase the cost of building a house, adding on a room, doing whatever. And he has walked us through a little bit about that and kind of disproved that to some extent. But I thought it would be good if we're seriously even just thinking about it, maybe we should, before James leaves, which is going to be sometime probably in June now, try to, maybe Mark could help with this, and get the word out to contractors and interested parties and let, just schedule a time when James can address questions, try to provide facts to deal with rumor and that sort of thing. And he didn't indicate he wasn't willing to do that. Anyone have an issue with doing that or want to do that? I mean, you don't have to do it, but. So. Mark, would you be willing to?
That sounds fine.
Okay, we'll just try to get something and publicize it and maybe even, I mean, I don't, you know, add the paper or whatever it might be to the general public if someone's interested, but particularly want to reach out to contractors and local people like that.
Do we want to go so far as to kind of schedule a time when we're going to address it here, decision-wise, to say like, this is what we're going to be addressing at this point?
Could. You you wanna put, if we put it on our schedule, then that lets people know that, I guess we're seriously gonna, we're not, it's not, won't be on for, it'll be on for action. That action could be a decision
Or against.
to not do anything, but I don't, my perception is there's gonna be at least a desire to do something.
James, where did you say, like, where was Hillsborough and Peabody and the surrounding communities, where are they at?
I'm not sure where Hillsborough is.
Okay.
I just know that Gossel just recently updated, I think, to 2018.
And where's Harrington?
You know, and Harrington is at 2015, we're looking to go to 2021 up there, you know. For the most part, building code hasn't changed a lot, you know, the foundations are all still the same depth, the water line stays at the same depth, you know. Same way with sewer lines, you know, the same amount of vents is still required, pipe sizes doesn't change, electrical wire sizing doesn't really change that much. What is changing is the methods for building, the materials being used to build with. And in order to have the right code, you have to, you know, make sure it's done properly, you have to get into the right codes and stuff. Solar, you know, like I mentioned earlier, solar systems, you know, 2008, solar systems were just barely being heard of, but now they're being put all over the place. And then you got battery storage, which causes stuff, which is going to take, it encounters a new element of, you know, fire protection. You know, if this battery becomes damaged, you know, it becomes a very, a fire potential in the home. You know, things like that. I also know that I get some feedback sometimes from electricians, you know. Things can be opted out. You know, that is something, these building codes can be, there are certain things can be kicked out of the building code as we adopt these codes also. I've seen communities opt out of certain parts of the artful code, for example. You know, I don't recommend it, but I've seen it.
What's the general basis or logic behind opting out of a specific thing? Usually just because it's gonna really jack up the expense, or?
Well, yes, okay. They say the art faults cause a greater expense, and that they didn't work. They were always causing false faults. That was in the early technology. The newer technology is not like that. It's a lot better. Basically, it's just little micro computers. It took me a long time. I had to go to an electrical class to find this out. Each breaker is a little, like a computer in there, and it's constantly monitoring that electrical circuit. And if it senses any place that there's a short in that circuit, it shuts it off. And, you know, those are the type of breakers that are being put in houses now. If an electrician doesn't get a wire nut tied all the way. And that's where fires come from, is loose connections. It builds up heat, and you have a fire. Those art faults sense those electrical shorts and stuff like that, and they'll shut them down.
So, we could just pick a month if you want to and say,
The ICC has sample ordinances. I can get those sample ordinances to y'all to look at too, if you'd like.
good idea, now follow through, what's your month?
But if you're gonna be on in June,
Yeah.
you could answer the question, I'd say July.
I didn't hear that.
If you're still around to answer questions in June, then I think action would make logically to do July to look at taking any actions
So put this on the agenda for
on your July meeting.
one of the July meetings, Janet? It would be to, James can probably give you the specifics, but to update would you mention 3 different codes there?
Yes, and I recommend also that the city adopt a mechanical code also. Right now, we don't have a mechanical code, and that covers the furnaces, gas, water heaters, things like that. It causes carbon monoxide. To me, that's one of the most, I feel it's very, very
Okay. Well, that's good. We're gonna have to be kind of aggressive in moving forward on this, but I really do think we ought to get a public meeting scheduled and invite the public and also any contractors and people of that nature. And then, why don't you come back and give us a little primer sometime in early June? You look at me like you don't know what I'm talking about.
You talking to me?
I am talking to you.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought you was looking at.
I'm looking right over his shoulder at you.
He's not very good on electrical.
Just, because you just threw out the mechanical, and we haven't talked about that, so, I mean, you might want to, not tonight necessarily, but sometime in June before you leave, say, okay, here's exactly what I'm recommending, if you don't mind.
You know, if you want, we get started on this here and you guys are serious and you want to update your codes, you know, and even if I'm not around, I'll still come in and help get this taken care of.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, sir. Anything else? Anything else for James? Okay. I think that's all the staff that's here. So let's go then to the counselors' reports or comments, and we'll start with you, Tim.
First thing on we talked before about that pre-application for the KDOT grant for the bike trail, which that has fallen through and that's not gonna happen, right? So, just so everyone knows that that's not going any further. So, if there's any question on that, it's dead at this point. I dropped in on the water plant the other day, just kind of give an update where the water stuff is at. They've done a lot of cleaning up around there and painting up the facilities and improving the facilities since they have extra staff on hand to be doing stuff in-house versus having other people do it. The new ozone generator is in. It's not installed yet. They have to install it, and then once it's installed, the technicians will come in to get it online. That, I'm assuming, would be Dr. Otura or his staff or his whoever assistant to help him with that. They've been making changes and improvements on the rest of the system leading up to that with the chlorine, because part of it still adds chlorine. It's just the monitoring and getting that level as low as it is possible so that it's still safe and effective, but being more efficient on the system that's being working there currently. There's also been devices I noticed around town on some of the fire hydrants. There's red boxes. I think there's 6 of them around town, and those devices all automatically kick on to drain the lines to improve the water quality so the water's not sitting in the lines longer. These have to, otherwise they have to go around manually at each one and do it, and these will kick on regular intervals, at least during the summer and months when it's not freezing. Wintertime they have to still do it manually, but that allows them to not be using the manpower to go around just to draining those versus the machines that they have just kicking on, and it improves the water quality. So if you see those boxes, that's what those are for. Also, they've gotten the pumps. Our pumps are rather, they got a lot of mileage on them, you might say, but they've got them updated and tuned up and ready to go. So when the big water tower project, there's a project repairs that's going to be done at some point. When that comes online, those lines have to be running constantly. So they just have those prepped and ready to go, but better than they were before to be able to run to keep the water supplies going when they're doing the big changes and repairs on that.
Last thing Mark said to me that I recall about that, it would be probably looking at October.
And when the water usage goes back down.
Yep. So that was just kind of an update on where it's at, and they've seen improvements in the water, just overall quality, just by what they're doing and doing it more effectively and efficiently since they're doing it in-house as much as they can. So that was all I had.
When Jason came on board, and we didn't decrease the staffing there, part of his, and Tim and I were at the meeting when he said it, was that with that third person, 3 people at the water plant instead of 2, the third person could be a floater. And my understanding is that he has been doing some of that, being used in other departments as needed. But also, they've been able to do repairs and needed maintenance and things that they would have been contracting out previously. At least that's what
Yes,
I
that's what he
understood.
said.
So I'm glad to hear that you saw that was happening.
Yeah, just walking into the facilities, you can tell they've been doing changes and improving it, and hopefully extending the life of those facilities even further now by making those improvements versus our fear of having to make major changes sooner than we were expecting to.
They're gonna have to
Well,
happen.
we'd have to, but to make them last.
Push them down the road a
Yeah.
little bit.
Tim, when do they expect to get the ozone, the refurbished one in?
It'll probably be a few months, yeah. I mean, it's in, it just still needs to be installed, and they were in the process of doing that, but, so they didn't, I think it was a couple months that they should definitely, but I don't know exactly for sure on that. But they still have to do their part before the technicians will even come in to do it, because it's gotta be completely ready to go before they come in and calibrate it. And then at that point, there will be 2 functioning ozone generators versus 1, so that way the backup is here and running. So if the current one goes down, they still have the backup that will be running effectively, so.
And is it our employees that are installing it?
Yes.
That unit? Gotcha.
As far as there's a lot of parts and pieces, there may be some aspects of it that they don't, but from my understanding is they were gonna be able to do most of it.
Gotcha.
Tim, am I remembering this incorrectly, or is the one that is currently in place and working, the ozone generator, is it then supposed to go in for the same kind of refurbishing that the one we've gotten back received?
I think it has been,
I think
It
it's,
already has
I would say, I
it's
think
think
been,
it has been
it's been
already.
refurbished and
Okay,
it's fully
good.
functional now. It's just that if that one ever was to go down, we
Yeah.
still have the next one ready
Right,
to
right,
go.
which-
So currently, we would have
Good.
2 fully functioning refurbished ones versus paying
and-
for brand new ones that are
What,
very expensive.
what was it, like $10,000? What was the cost of getting that? Maybe it's more than that.
Refurbished?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was more than that.
It was a lot more than that, yeah. It's not a cheap thing.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't cheap, but.
I don't remember the dollar figure, but I thought it was a lot for just redoing one, but I mean, that's just. the
You wanted to
nature
get out of the car wash business and get in the ozone refurbishing business?
No, I do not.
Thank you, Tim.
Yep.
Kevin?
I don't really have anything, though. One thing, I think that the last meeting you'd mentioned that Brian was working on a new regulation or something for food truck. Is he still on that?
I haven't talked to him, but I did get a copy of Council Groves, and I really like it. And I was kind of playing around with it the other day, and the next time I talk to him, which I haven't recently, I told the Council Grove guy that, be aware, I may just steal it. And he said he was fine with that. So, well, yeah, I'm with you. That's laying on my desk at home.
Okay. That was all I had.
Well, I will just go to you.
Okay.
Save the best.
I only had, Tim, you said the pre-application for the KDOT bike path, because we applied, we did the, are you talking the one from the?
The
here
one
in
that
town
Darren was
to
gonna
the
go
lake?
talk to the landowners about.
Yeah.
That one. He can't get
It
landowners.
was in one of
Oh,
Mark's
really?
updates, just saying that they couldn't get the permission from landowners
It
that were
was too quick
necessary.
a process.
Okay.
So they'll
It
try to
wasn't-
I
talk about it in the
didn't-
future.
So there was no way it was gonna happen, so
Okay.
they just dropped it
Okay.
from that point on.
That was all I had.
Oh, okay.
I'm done.
Kevin answered for me with the food truck thing.
Oh, all right. Couple things. At the study session, work session, I was supposed to put together some topics that we could assign to the sessions for the future. And so I've done that. I'll read them, but probably what you would prefer is I'll just I'll get this to Janet. I actually wrote it in a way I think is readable, and let her just send it out to you. And if you like this, the way I've got it lined out, we can do it this way. So what I've got is, I think June 10, which is our next one coming up, it would be good to just generally have it just budget. Just talk about the budget. And by then, I'm hopeful we'll have, what timeline did you give, Mark? Did you give staff for getting there?
Well, they're working on it now.
Yeah.
We'll have a meeting tomorrow, talk about it. I think you're still waiting on valuation by June 15th, as I recall.
Did you or did you not take that June one off last meeting?
He had to take, we
He did take it off,
took
but
it
then
off,
we.
but discussed
because
bringing
we
it back
had-
on just for the sake of discussing the budget before.
We talked about it, you're right, but I thought that we left it on because the budget stuff's moving quickly.
I thought we had taken it off.
Well, we have
because-
June 24th.
We have the
We're
June
having a meeting on
24th
the
budget.
24th.
Right, but that's with the Lloyd Group person. I want our group, and it doesn't have to be June 10th, it could be after we have the meeting with the Lloyd person, but I want the council to be able to sit down and look at what Mark and staff
Yeah.
have been looking at and what different departments want and so on, and just walk and look at that before we actually have any kind of an actual formal budget hearing on anything.
Yeah,
So-
I would think I would make that discussion happen after Lloyd comes, because the guys aren't gonna know anything until we talk to the Lloyd group on where we're at. So I think in order for the department heads to be prepared well enough to give what they want,
Well,
more
I don't
information.
understand that. I mean, they still should be able to go through and say things they think they need. And then, obviously, those would be subject to being cut if we get the information from Lloyd says don't have the money to do those things. But you should know right now whether you want to have a new desk in that corner or buy a computer program, shouldn't you?
Not necessarily. I mean, if the money isn't there, the money isn't there.
Well, but you know whether the need or not the need is there. That's what I want to know is what do we need?
We can put the numbers together, and whether it's the 10th or a little bit later, I'm not sure. I wasn't here last meeting, I'm not sure what the discussion was. You just want to have a separate one on the budget?
Well, I think the only discussion was at the study session.
Okay. We'd have it on the
Okay.
10th, I mean.
Well,
if
nobody
people
wants
had
to
it.
do it on the 10th, which is fine. I know I left that meeting thinking we were still doing it, but I have no problem with moving it. But if we're gonna move that and do it after the June 24 one, then I think we better do it in July, would be my comment.
Okay.
So, okay, we can come back to that. And then obviously, June 24 is the budget meeting. That's at 6 with someone from the Lloyd Group. September 23, what I'm proposing would be, we talked about putting together some kind of a maintenance schedule for city property. So you're talking city equipment, city property, which I think would include even this building, just a schedule. So when we look at things and from everything from air conditioners to,
Water valves.
yeah, whatever. And also, well, I've got city equipment and property maintenance, then the city building repair and maintenance. We had talked about maybe doing a tour and just literally walking through this old lady and taking a look at how it is. July 22nd, I've got capital improvement plan, and we need to get Darren in and talk to us about that. And to me, that seems late, but, and then we also talked about a street signage in the city and sidewalks, kind of lump those two together. And then November 25, broadband, fiber optics, that might be we got the guy from Vive who's volunteered to come in and tell us that Vive can do it. And then also on that same meeting, recycling and trash. So I'll send that out. It's totally subject to change, but I'll send it out so I'll give it to Janet to send out. Other thing, I had another meeting with the hospital administrator and the school superintendent today. Mark was there as well. Just really think those are going to be productive. We've got 2 young people in those positions, and I think they're really looking big picture. They're looking long-term, and also they're looking big picture and willing to take some action on things, which I don't really, not a lot I can say other than we talked about ways we could cooperate to the city support maybe the school in getting, some class offerings in things that would, be maybe from a tech school, or junior college, community colleges, so that you could, some people that aren't really interested in going to college could maybe, while in high school and then a little bit after high school, get a skill that they wouldn't have to leave town to make a living doing. So that was today. I thought that was a good discussion. We also last week talked about wanting to set up a schedule for city supervisory staff. I think we probably said department heads, but we have a weird organizational chart here, and who's a department head doesn't mean, we have other people that are supervising groups but they aren't technically department heads that we might want to hear from. But what we had talked about was having them not be in a position where they just had to come to every meeting or they never came to any meetings, but rather we set up a schedule so that maybe Jason Wheeler for the water department and somebody else for some other department would come in once every couple months or whatever the case may be. And I think the only way we're going to get that done is to first determine what we consider a supervisory person, and then we could easily do a schedule. But I think Mark could do that, and I'll be glad to help Mark with that. But you want to proceed on that? Mm-hmm. I talked to Tim today, and he was Tim the Greater. Tim the Greater, not Tim the Lesser. He indicated that was fine, he was willing to do it, but he did want to stress that any council member is more than welcome to hit him up anytime that they have any questions about anything. And the last thing that I wanted to address was, obviously, if you read the paper, there was confusion with regard to splash pads. So just to make the record accurate, I had talked with the chairman of the Community Foundation, MAC, and the chairman of the Economic Development Board. We had a lunch meeting because there were some grant opportunities that we thought we might, that with those being not-for-profit corporations, might be able to reach out and get something we might want to have. And the meeting was actually about what kind of things might we want to do. And we talked about using the grants, if we could get a grant, and all of them are matching grants, so that's problematic. But ultimately, we came up with the idea that maybe we ought to explore a splash pad. So one of those persons, we agreed on a location that seemed logical. So one of those persons went and talked to the owner to see if they'd be willing to sell, and if so, at what amount they would want to sell. I asked Mark to do a little research to see if we wanted to go down that road, could we afford to do it? There's nothing sinister about it. I was getting information. As you know, there were no meetings of the group to talk about splash pads. And Mark provided me with information from Emporia and other places. And I know that when I would go in and talk to him, there was a lot of discussion of splash pad and what the options would be. Why Janet was thinking splash pad when she did the minutes the other day, I don't know. Is it because there's something sinister and underhanded going on? No. It obviously must be because she'd heard Mark talk about splash pad and put it in. But that's the end of the story. We've done nothing on that, wouldn't do anything on it, couldn't do anything on it until there was a decision to proceed on it. And I, at this point in time, do not think that it's something that we're in a position to proceed on based upon the information that Mark has given me. I know that the person that wrote a letter to the editor and quoted an amount that it would cost to build one that was in another universe. It was so high, the cost would be nowhere near that. But I'd like to continue to look into it. I'm gonna continue to look into it. Nobody can stop me from continuing to look into it. And at some point in time, if I feel like there's community support for it, I'll bring it back up. And I would encourage all of you, and I wanna make this very clear because I'm worried that you don't understand this. You have an absolute right to go talk to the city administrator about anything you're interested in, anytime you want to. And frankly, if you're not doing that, then shame on you, because I think you should be. There's nothing wrong with it. So, with that little rant over with, anything else anyone wants to do? Oh, last public comment. Anything from anybody, public comment? All right, thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second it.
Motion and second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you.